Hey guys, you found your way to B-Ball Summary. My name is Mo Allo, and we're on day 7 of NBA in the Bubble. We've got another 6 games to cover off today, so let's dive right on into it. In game 1, we have the Memphis Grizzlies versus the Utah Jazz. This was a very tightly fought match, and you could see that from the first quarter, in which we had 14 ties or lead changes. As we move into the second quarter, the Memphis Grizzlies were really trying to get a foothold of the game. They sought to take control, and seemingly did so coming out of the gates in the second half, leading by as much as 13 points. This, coupled with the fact that the Jazz were struggling on the offensive end, made it look like perhaps this game wasn't going to be tight after all. However, they really turned it up in the last 4 minutes of the first half, going on a massive 22-1 run to completely eradicate the Memphis Grizzlies lead and build one of their own. However, to start the second half, Memphis was not going to go down fighting. In a game where we saw the offensive load carried by multiple players, Grayson Allen truly came into his own with a career night of 20 points. He's been shooting the ball incredibly well from three-point land during the NBA restart. He ends his night with 6 3-point makes, good for 75% from that distance. As the Grizzlies were missing Justice Winslow and Jaren Jackson Jr., they really needed the extra firepower. Although they were never able to take control of the game, the Grizzlies were able to keep the Jazz honest throughout the third and into the fourth quarter. However, the youth of this team became very apparent in the late portions of the fourth quarter. Despite multiple players scoring in double digits for the Grizzlies, the Jazz were able to do just that as well, with 6 different players scoring 10 or above, 3 of which scoring 20 or more points. The turning point of this game, however, came when Joe Ingles hit 2 back-to-back threes late in the fourth quarter. It seemed to sap the life right out of the Memphis Grizzlies. At the end of the day, experience prevailed, with the best clutch performing team in the NBA taking out another win tonight. The final score of this game, 115-124. The Utah Jazz win by 9. Although it's hard to say who the player of this game was, because multiple players turned up big for both teams. I'm going to give the surprise performance to Grayson Allen. The biggest disappointment for me was definitely Ja Morant. With a team that he calls his own down late in the fourth quarter, he needed to be more of an emotional leader. I imagine we can expect to see those things come in time. In game 2, we have the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Washington Wizards. The Wizards, this is a must-win game if they want any chance of being able to make the playoffs. And it's fair to say they came right out and did that. The Wizards did not let the 76ers get more than 10 points ahead of them in the first half. Although Rui Hachimura was struggling to score today, incredible performances from Troy Brown Jr., Ish Smith, and Thomas Bryant were able to keep the Wizards in the game and ultimately allowed them to take the lead midway through the third quarter. Their lead was shortly lived, however, as the 76ers began to fight back and take control very late in the third quarter. It should be noted that Ben Simmons went to the locker room with a left knee injury. After he subbed out, the Joel Embiid show began. The 76ers take control of the fourth quarter, led by Joel Embiid and his efficient play on the night. Thomas Bryant plays incredible defense against Joel Embiid. Without their star players on the court, this was a great opportunity for rotational players who otherwise wouldn't get to play to have a go and get some well-needed experience. But that's where it ends, at experience. Today, the young Wizards players learned that when you poke the bear in Joel Embiid, you get the claws. Joel ends his night with 30 points and 11 rebounds, and is tonight's player of the game. The final score of this game, 98-107. 76ers win by 9. Thomas Bryant comes in as tonight's surprise player of the game. In some stretches, he simply looked like the best big man on the court. It's disappointing that the Wizards' playoff dreams are over, but they can look to hone their skills and give some minutes to guys who otherwise wouldn't be playing. Let's roll right along into Game 3. Here we have the Denver Nuggets versus the San Antonio Spurs. As the Spurs aim to secure the highly coveted 9th seed in the West, tonight was a critical game for them. However, with Denver building an early lead, it wasn't looking good. Although there was some back and forth, Denver leads for most of the first half, led by some great play from Michael Porter Jr., who ends the first half with 14 points. Coming out of the break, however, the Spurs looked to take control of this game with an early run, but were quickly snuffed out. As we head into the fourth quarter, it was obvious this one was going to be a tight game. However, Michael Porter Jr. was ultimately the difference maker tonight, scoring 16 second half points and ending his night with 30 points to go along with 15 rebounds. In the absence of Jamal Murray, his production has been needed by the Nuggets, as they've had a few close games. The final score of this game, 132-126. Nuggets win by 6. Michael Porter Jr. is tonight's player of the game. It's really looking like he could be the final piece to a three-headed monster looking to terrorize the West in the coming years. As we dive right on into Game 4, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Los Angeles Lakers. Now this game is what we call the definition of an upset. Although the first quarter was somewhat tight, the Thunder never trailed and the game was only tied once. As the game progressed, the problem became more and more apparent. Anthony Davis was having a shocking night from the field. He ends his night with a jaw-dropping 9 points, good for only 27% from the field. This, combined with the fact that the Lakers couldn't buy a bucket from distance, ultimately led to them blowing this game. The team combined for a grand total of 5 made threes. However, on the other side of the court, we're seeing a great offensive performance from OKC. All of their 5 starters scoring in double digits. This was led by their captain Chris Paul, who seemingly scored at will, taking patience and striking when he was ready. The final score in this matchup, 105-86. The Thunder win by 19. And with this win against the Lakers, the Thunder steal the 5th seed from the Rockets and advance to 2-1 after the restart. The Lakers were disappointing as a whole. Although this was an outlier shooting night, they have been the most inefficient team since the NBA restart. Heading into the playoffs, they really need to figure this out. Otherwise, I don't like their chances against any of the second round matchups, let alone the Clippers in the conference finals. Next on the list, we have the Toronto Raptors versus the Orlando Magic. In all this talk about the 2 LA teams and the Bucks, it's easy to forget that the Toronto Raptors are actually defending champions. And today, they played like it. They came out and did exactly what they were expected to do from the first quarter, dropping 26 points on the Magic, but more importantly, holding them to only 11 points in the first period. This game was over about as quickly as it started. The Raptors leading by 24 points late in the second quarter. The final score of this game was 109-99. Raptors win by 10. The player of this game was Fred VanVleet with his 21 points and 10 assists. And after that quick summary, let's head right on to our 3rd consecutive blowout of the NBA restart. Despite the close first half, there was a glaring talent gap in this game. With no star players, the Nets found themselves in dire straits against the star-studded Boston Celtics. Even without Kemba Walker, every single starter was able to record double-digit points. And almost every healthy player on the Boston roster got a solid run today. Once again, with this game being a blowout, there's not really much else to say. The final score of this game, 115-149. Boston wins by an albatross margin of 34. It was great to see Jason Tatum during this game. Despite limited minutes, he was still able to record 19 points on 64% shooting from the field and 62% from the three-point line. Despite a disappointing result for the Nets, it was good to see some rotational players getting some minutes and the opportunity to be able to showcase some of their skill. Jeremiah Martin was able to record 20 points on 67% shooting from the field. That's the first and probably last time on this channel. Well, that's where I'm going to have to love you and leave you. Thanks once again for tuning in. And don't forget, if you have any friends who you think might enjoy this type of content, make sure you let them know. I'm looking forward to growing a little bit of a community in the comment section. And with that, I'll see you tomorrow. Mo Aloe out.